Hey, welcome back. We have another student here with us this week. Introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Gracie. Thanks for having me today. I'm so happy to be here.
Our lesson this week is on temptation, called What I Really Want. Temptation is a desire to do something we know might not be the best for us. And we've learned along the way that kind of temptation you might be facing as a middle schooler is so much more intense than the kind you dealt with when you were younger.
Being tempted to take a cookie from the counter when your mom told you not to is small stuff compared to being tempted to cheat, steal, lie, or make a choice that could have big and painful consequences as you get older.
But you probably would know the feeling if you've given in and done something you knew wasn't good for you. And then you were probably wondering what to do next.
Maybe we feel stuck after we've given into temptation. We're stuck with the feeling of guilt, embarrassment, defeat, or shame.
Maybe we've been doing it for so long we don't even know the difference anymore. Or maybe because everybody else acts like it's not a big deal, we feel the same way whenever the reason given into the temptation doesn't feel all that bad to us.
Or maybe we get upset, we might blame other people for what we did. That's easier than taking responsibility ourselves.
Maybe we try to hide what we did, or we avoid the person who upset us. We make excuses what we did or what we were, or even lie and deny the whole thing, or do whatever it takes to make sure nobody finds out.
The things we do, but reality is don't make things better. In fact, dealing with temptation in these ways usually makes it worse.
So what we do when we were given into temptation, how we were supposed to respond to start over, to change the path that we are on.
To help us figure out, we're going to talk about the guy named David. David is one of the biggest heroes in the Bible. He lived before Jesus came to earth. When he first met David, he was a shepherd boy, but by the time his story was through, God called him so much more. He eventually became a king, a God's savior, a man after my own heart.
Now I don't know about you, but when I hear all that, I think of the guy that most have it all together. He probably lived right and made mistakes, never gave in to the kind of temptation that would mess up the good thing he had done.
But that's not exactly how David's story went. When David was king over Israel, he was doing a really great job, winning a ton of battles. His kingdom was growing and his people really liked him.
But things changed on the fateful night. David couldn't sleep, so he got up out at night in the bed and wandered into the roof, and then he noticed a beautiful woman named Bathsheba across the way.
So when he saw Bathsheba, what did David do? I mean, this was a man after all, God's own heart. Obviously, he walked away, he went back to his room, and nothing bad happened, right?
Wrong David invited the Bathsheba over to hang out as well. They gave in to temptation. Temptation led David to sin with Bathsheba. Then the guilt and the shame he left, ordering to kill Bathsheba's husband. David knew what he did was wrong, but he kept going. Why? Well, I think it was because David believed he had no way out.
In the middle of that, David also felt distant from God. We know that because he wrote about it in the pages from the book of Psalms. There, David wrote that he felt a lot of the same feelings now I feel when I struggle with temptations. He used the phrase cursed, cash out, and joyless to describe it.
But here's what we are also knowing was true about David's story. It didn't end there. Didn't just give up on him, abandoned him. His hands in the air said, well, David gave into temptation. David did a lot of great things after this part of his story.
But to really go on with his life, David had to do one thing: ask for God's forgiveness.
In one of the Psalms, David wrote this prayer asking for God's forgiveness. Don't keep looking at my sins. Remove the stain of my guilt. Create in me a clean heart, O God. Renew a loyal spirit within me. Psalm 51.
Now David still had to face some major consequences from those bad choices because he had forgiveness, he could walk forward without fear, guilt, and shame holding him down anymore, and the same came true for us.
See, giving into temptation doesn't have to do at the end of the story. We don't have to stay stuck in the choices we've made or feeling we feel because of them. Forgiveness was a key for David. It is a key for you and me today. Ask God for forgiveness. Go to God and just like David did, confess what it is you're struggling with. Tell him about how it made you feel. Ask God for help. Change your story and ask for his forgiveness. Remember, there is nothing that can separate you from God's love. There is nothing he won't offer you.
Ask others to forgive you. Asking God for forgiveness is the most important step in moving forward, but making these things right with others is important too. When we make poor choices, it often acts those around us. And part of moving on is moving forward, taking responsibility of the mistakes we've made.
Forgive yourself. Sometimes this can be the hardest step to take. When you get stuck here, keep reminding yourself that God's forgiveness, ask for his help, and remember the story isn't over.
Make a new plan. If you don't want to find yourself in the same situation in the future, you've got to make a new plan to avoid that temptation. That might mean making some tough choices like not hanging out with certain friends, having your parents put restrictions on your phone, on your computer, not listening to certain music, or asking to sit in a different seat in class.
We all can start over, no matter where we are, no matter what we've done, and the best part is, we don't have to do it on our own. Here you have a small group of friends and leaders who want to help you forgive yourself and move forward with Jesus. There are people who want to support you and encourage you to remember that. Giving into temptation doesn't have to be the end of the story.
Also, for temptation, I've gone into temptation a lot. I've lost some friends, but I know that God has always pushed people out of the way for me if they aren't a good influence on me. For soccer, I had this one friend who would not support me in it, but I ended up taking a break, and now we're good friends. We just need to make sure that you tell the truth and speak the truth to each other. When you're getting into temptation, just make sure that you think before you speak, or like my mom always says, make sure to say something that isn't hurtful, and if you say it, apologize immediately and don't wait very last minute to tell them.
Hey, if you heard something you like, hit that like button. If you want to receive these videos every week, hit the subscribe button. And if you are our friends and family members, go ahead and share it, and we'll see you guys next week.